Welcome to Rucks, Mauls and Oval Balls. That's right, it is the fans' favourite rugby podcast brought to you by the fans' favourite rugby podcast hosts, plus a guest this week. That's right, it is me, Dave, joined as ever by Rory. And for this week, coming back to the podcast, it's Mark Williams. Hello, Mark.
Hello,
hello, Rory. Hello.
Hello. All right, lads, how are we?
Oh, very well. So, quick disclaimer to the listener here. This podcast is being brought to you as a kind of end of year 2025 roundup because in the week between Christmas and New Year, myself and Rory are unable to record. So you might be expecting us to analyse round 8 of the Prem. Instead, you're getting some excellent 2025 roundup content for your listening pleasure. So just in case you are expecting Prem Rugby round 8, that might come in the new year. But for now, we're doing a 2025 roundup. So yeah, I'm doing well. How are you both?
Yeah, I'm pretty good actually. It feels like a lifetime ago that was last on the podcast. It was the week after the Lions Argentina game, wasn't it? So
that was a long time ago. It was a long time ago.
Welcome
a lot
back.
Of rugby since then. I know, yeah.
A lot of water passed under the bridge.
Sure.
Yeah, a lot of water has gone under the bridge. What's happened to me then? We've taken a break, started a new season. We've missed a couple of weeks because of my my logistics. So you've missed the shaky periods, and then you're back now. We're getting back into the swing of things. We didn't want to tar you with our unprofessional brush. That's what it was, Mark. We're not.
No, don't worry. I think I tarred you with mine. First thing I did after I came off the podcast was buy a decent mic and headphones. That just disclaimer, I can't sort the volume on it. That's why I've got one ear out because all I can hear is my own thoughts. So just bear with me on that.
It's all good.
We're very used to technical difficulties.
Yeah, I think it is a weekly occurrence. We hit into some sort of snag. So you're very much part of the family in that sense. Now, as always, we start off our podcast with our obligatory banter. We make sure that we diarise that as part of our order of chat. I know, Mark, you pointed that out when I shared that with you. You had a nice little laugh that we had to remind ourselves to have a little bit of banter. Normally, it's about how rugby's gone over the last weekend and any activities that have taken place. Rory, did you play any rugby this weekend with Westcliff?
So natural, this. Such a natural section. No game for the twos this week. I actually was in Twickenham at HQ. Allianz is for official sponsorship reasons. Watching the Harlequins women and the Harlequins men team, who both had very differing results. We had a day out at HQ, which was very, very much over-enjoyed, maybe.
Foggy memories.
Yeah. The ones did have a game. They were away at Colchester, so they were away league leaders. And by all accounts, gave a good performance, 33-16 loss, which, given that the South End, who were, I think, third in the table, they put 90 points on them at Colchester when they visited, I'm going to take as effectively a win.
That's a moral victory, I'd say.
Huge moral victory.
How about yourself, Mark?
We
are moral.
Yeah, I was not quite Harlequins Bristol. I was at New Brighton v Wigan, which frankly the defensive efforts were similar. So, as they often are. The club that I'm coaching now, I've sort of feel like I've turned into a bit of a super rugby side. So I think we're something like 7th in the league, and we've got maybe the top try bonuses. Haven't checked the defence stats too closely, but yeah, so we were at that. It was a pretty end-to-end affair, one of those we score, they score, we score, they score. But we scored in the end. Wigan came on a bus and then went to Chester afterwards, which is proper level 7 stuff, that like bringing the coach, go to Chester, get the game out of the way. But yeah, I only caught glimpses of the Premiership, just wrapping a couple of presents before. Funnily enough, the Quins Bristol game was on, and I put my head up and was like, is that Ellis Genge that ran from the halfway through everyone?
Honestly, I mean, bit of a jump forward, but it was a big contender for my standout moment for 2025. And I thought, I can't just do the last thing I saw. But to be there to see Ellis Genge run in from 45 metres was a huge moment for me. And, do we bring back the DPRFR?
Well, so this is a real Rucks, Mauls and Oval Balls timeline quandary you're in right now, because we're recording this one the day before we're recording our analysis of that round of rugby, but this is going to be released in 8 days' time. So
as you're listening to this, you'll have already heard me gush about this particular try from Ellis Kenge, because I was going mad in the stands for that one.
Yeah, well, I think that it's justifiable, and I did wonder whether this was a particular weekend to talk about the DPRFR. Maybe we'll talk about that last week. I don't know. Yeah, a real messy timeline, but we'll ignore that. So yeah, as I said at the start, this podcast is going to be about 2025, looking ahead to 2026, a couple of our own personal highlights, a few other little fun things to do, and it felt like a really good one to bring Mark back on board for, to bring a bit of expertise, that bit of knowledge, and another voice to really well, yeah. Well, it's just, it breaks up the monotony of me and Rory. I think the listener will be really thankful for that. But I wanted to start off simply with just let's talk about our personal standout moments of rugby of 2025, just from a personal point of view. Can be anything. Let's start with you, Rory.
Well, a bit of a soppy one for me, I suppose. This season, I got made, as we discussed, as captain of the second team, and I've had the great pleasure of captaining my younger brother, who's 10 years my junior. So we've been playing alongside each other for the last few months. So for me, sort of, I'd say coming into kind of the twilight years of my rugby playing career, if we're being generous, being able to get out on the paddock with my younger brother's been very special. But what I particularly enjoyed is in the last 3 months, never once even remotely considering putting him forward for man of the match.
That is very. I think that's the right way to be handling that, Rory. Yeah. But that is nice. Yeah. That's a good one. I know you say it's soppy, but I think that's a good one. And
yeah, it's a nice moment to have before you sort of start thinking that the boots might need to start gathering dust at some point.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure that moment's years away, Rory. I'm sure your retirement isn't anywhere looming in the near future.
Well, we'll see. Some of the reviews are suggesting it should be sooner than later.
Okay, we'll move on then. Mark, how about yourself?
Yeah, a couple actually. So, I mean, you'll be aware, and I suppose people that have followed me on TikTok will know that I coach about 100 different teams. But the standout for me, I've sort of picked one from the start of the year and one from the end. So the first one is the third place finish in National 2 at Lim, breaking most club records. It was a season like no other, especially for a team completely unpaid, going and beating at some point in the season every single team in that league, including Tykes, who've gone up and probably do a decent job in National 1. I know they're down the bottom now, but turn Rotherham over on Saturday, who are top. So that is the standout one for me from a personal experience. And the second one, a bit of a mad one. It's hard to convey this, but our school program. So I'm a full-time rugby coach at an independent school on the Wirral, which has got like 40 lads in a year, and we found ourselves number 23 in the country at the moment on performance. And I know that sort of win ratio is a tough way of measuring school rugby, because it's not ultimately that much about winning. But one thing winning does show generally is that you're doing things right. And given sort of the amount of players that we have and the sort of program we run, because we don't scholar, we don't pay players to come in and knock money off fees for rugby players like some outfits do. And I'm not criticising schools that do that, because they do an excellent job. I know a lot of heads of rugby at real top rugby schools, but just being able to sit around in a room with all the players just before we broke up from Christmas and have a look at what we've done and sort of sit around like, are we decent? And do you know what I mean? And just having it has, and the way that sort of I measure it personally is if you've got players wanting to come down Tuesday after school, Wednesday for an hour and a half games, Thursday after school, they're on time of a Saturday, wherever we are, home or away, wanting to go and not really caring whether we're playing a team with a similar amount of boys or 200 plus in a year, and just getting after it and performing and enjoying it. That, to me, speaks of a good program for the kids. So, I don't want it to sound a bit like too self-aggrandizing, because I'm one of many coaches, and the coaches and teaching staff, frankly, that we have in the school that put their hand into coach are exceptional and doing a really good job. And the players are, I think, really reaping the rewards of that. And it's, as with any performance, it's on them, not really us. So I wanted to mention them as a bit of a personal standout.
Yeah, I think those are two good ones. I think, like, when I look back on when I played, you always remember the years where it's felt really good. Felt like there's like a real like positive feeling around a team. It sounds like that's the sort of thing you're creating at that school team. And perhaps is that something that coaches aim to try and create in terms to try and make it so players feel like they're in that moment? Or is it something that comes naturally and is all out of a coach's control?
a bit of both, which is a bit of a cop out of an answer. But the number one thing you've got to do, I think, when you're the coach of a team is sort the culture of it out. And I've coached in teams before where I've gone in and the culture's been really sour and I've had to change it. But I've gone into some places where the culture's fine and they just need a little bit more technical detail, which is probably the latter for school. But yeah, if you haven't got the culture where players want to turn up and want to get better and want to put time in and enjoy their rugby, and not necessarily, especially for schoolboy or university or North England level, where not necessarily they want to go on and be professional, they just want to enjoy their rugby. That's the number one thing. If you've got lads who want to learn and enjoy, then that is the first building block, because if you haven't got that, then I'd almost argue what are you doing it for?
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I also wonder, because you do seem to coach about 20 different teams, how do you make sure you're keeping track of what you've coached with each team through a year? Or do you just coach the same thing with each? Or if it always intrigues me how a coach who does many teams, how they make sure that they're kind of providing bespoke help, or is it just one brush fits all?
No, so I tend to plan through WhatsApp. I did something on TikTok about this, about how to plan sessions. I tend to do it through WhatsApp in groups. Now, there's some sessions I lead and there's some that I don't. So there are, for example, at school, there are some age groups where I lead the coach and I lead the first team and the under-16s. But then there's other coaches where the lead isn't me and I'm planned for. So I'm delivering stuff that other coaches are planning. I'm not the head coach in every scenario. I am at uni. I'm not at North England. We bounce it around a little bit at club, but what I will do, and I won't do a one-size-fits-all approach, but what I will do is if I do something that works really well at club, for example, I'll go and try it at school and I'll go and try it at uni and see if they buy into it as well. And I find myself sometimes in a week doing the same thing 2 or 3 times because I found it works in one environment, and because I know the players in the other environment, I think I'll go and give it a go there and see how they react to it. So there is a case of me planning, but it's not always the same. It's a lot of the time not usually similar. I take the forwards and do mauling. Sometimes I take the backs to do kicking and backs attack and all sorts in different scenarios, but there is a mixture of me planning and other coaches planning. So not necessarily, but I will try stuff that works in one environment and another quite often. Yeah, that
makes sense. It does make sense. And I guess that buys into kind of helping create that environment, because you're picking up the things that work and you're picking up the things that people buy into. I can see why it works. I should probably add my own standout.
Yes, David, what's your standout?
Well, the obvious answer I was going to say was the Man v Fat Rugby journey I went on, but I'm taking a bit of a hiatus from that, so I probably won't sing and shout about that. What I will do, in a little bit of, it'll probably seem a little bit self-indulgent, but I'll say it's this podcast, Rory. Because we've been doing it for nearly a year now. We started it in January this year. And the fact that we're still doing it, haven't given up on it, still plugging away. But I think it's the fact that it's those moments where if I go to a game and someone comes up to me and says, "Are you the guys off TikTok? Are you the guys off Instagram?" And they say, "Really like your podcast," or "Really like your..." Like, I know it sounds quite self-indulgent, but that does make you feel good when you do get recognised for something you enjoy doing. So it's not necessarily rugby related, but because I'm not playing rugby, that's as close as I could get to for stand-up. But hopefully that's something that continues. But it's just being told.
I think we can allow that slight
deviation,
self-indulgent.
Yeah,
but we should move on swiftly.
Move on swiftly to standout professional rugby. So not our personal standout moments, but moments that stand out for us through the last year in the world of rugby. We'll keep the same running order. Rory, for you, what is your standout rugby moment of 2025?
I mean, I was sorely tempted by the Ellis Gens try. And then I just found myself sort of going down a rabbit hole of moments I picked out for the DPRFR in the first half of the year.
Yeah.
What was my favourite?
One from last week.
Yeah. But I thought, what was the moment that actually got me up out of my seat? And I think it was probably Elliot Daly's winner against France in the Six Nations. To turn it around in the last minute for England, and arguably could have kept Borthwick in his job at that point, because things were looking pretty bleak after the Ireland game. That set England off on this kind of run that they've been on, really, where they now look like they're going to start challenging for the top, sort of challenging towards South Africa. I thought, if I look back on the whole year, what moment really got me out of my seat? And I think Elliot Daly scoring that try, and then everything that's kind of followed on from that from an England rugby perspective, I think that's the moment I enjoyed the most.
Yeah, I do remember feeling that was impactful because France was definitely a game we were going into not expecting a lot out of it, kind of expecting a whooping.
Yeah, it felt properly significant when it happened. I mean, the whole game was, as I remember it, it was a very to and fro game, and it really could have gone either way, and probably should have gone to France if we're all being completely honest. Like, thinking back on that game, they spilled a lot of ball, and obviously we'd beaten Scotland the week before in a bit of a squeaker, but it didn't feel like a sort of sea change moment. But backing it up against France felt significant, and particularly with that the France side at that moment in time felt fairly unstoppable.
Yeah, I think start of 2025 they were definitely a dominant force, weren't they? Yeah. I think that's a good one. That's a good one. Mark, how about yourself?
I've gone for quite an obvious one here, to be fair, but it's hard in a Lions year to look past the Lions series win, isn't it?
Yeah.
It should really have been a 3-0, but I suppose given context of losing that first game against Argentina, and again, it wasn't the full noise Lions, but going on from that Argentina game to, I think, beat everyone until the last game. I don't know if I misremembered that, but to win so convincingly, and again with the caveat that a lot of the teams that they played weren't particularly good. Frankly, I thought quite unusually sometimes there was performances, certainly from players in the invitational games, that were better than the actual Super Rugby sides. But I think the Lions win is the obvious one. If you're asking the real honest side of me, then the standout moment in professional rugby is any maul that Bath had within 10 metres of anyone's try line.
Oh, it's a piece of art, isn't it?
I've spent more time with my phone filming Bath mauls for TikTok than anything else. Like, that is,
I just can't support. I can't support. As a Gloucester fan, I can't support having someone on the podcast pulling a Bath moment for them.
I said it and I meant it.
Yeah. I can see the Bath Maul is certainly, it's an entity to itself, and it's to be feared. So I can see why that would be a standout moment for you. For me, again, this is going to seem really self-indulgent. But
which Henry Pollock try is it?
No, it's the Northampton Saints victory against Leinster in the Champions Cup semi-final.
Oh no, yeah, that's a good shout.
But a big part of it for me was I was getting pelters the whole week prior to that because I predicted Northampton to win, and I was getting called delusional left, right, and centre, being told I had no idea what I was talking about. I had fans from all parts of the country and other nations telling me I didn't know what I was talking about. For them to go pull that off in the way that they did, in a convincing manner, I felt so vindicated and, what's the right word? Arrogant about the fact that I'm right to be saying some of the stuff I'm saying about Northampton. But like that moment, like, as you said, Roy, like genuine get up out of your seat moments, that was one of them. I remember I was round a friend's house and I was like running around a garden just celebrating with a load of other Saints fans. It was just fantastic.
Was there a particular moment in the game that really stands out to you? Was it the Pollock try? Because that line and then rounding, was it Prendergast rounds in the backfield?
Yeah. Yes, and then
that was a real,
and then the whole checking the pulse thing that came from that.
Because obviously we'd been talking. He'd been getting a lot of the chat, of course, by that point. But that felt like a real announce yourself on the biggest stage kind of moment.
I was just going to say. Do you think that was the game that got him on the Lions tour? Because I wasn't sure he was going until I saw him in that, and then I knew he was good, but when I saw him in that, I was like, he's legit. To be fair,
I think that rubber stamped it.
By the end of that game, I was like, he's going. 100% he's going.
I don't think Andy Farrell had a choice after that game, but I also think part of the fact that because of the hype around him, just generally, just having him on the tour was as good for the touring party, I think. So I think it just cemented it in most fans' heads as well. Like, it's no surprise that when they're announcing the squad, he got the biggest cheer. But I don't want to, spoiler alert, his name might get mentioned a couple more times, so probably shouldn't dwell too much on Henry Pollock.
We've been accused of being Pollock pod in the past.
Click that section, you'll get views, don't worry.
There's a reason.
I'm not saying cynically we might have done that in the past, but it's possible.
Was our very first ever guest one of Henry Pollock's coaches? Sure. But hey, we haven't got the man himself on yet. But maybe something for the future. Who knows? But yeah, moving on. Let's talk a bit more generally about rugby risers and fallers in 2025. So players, clubs, things in 2025 where they've either had a rise or a dramatic fall. We'll do one riser and one faller each. Talk about maybe some others in contention. Let's start with your risers and fallers, Rory.
Yeah, risers was quite hard to come up with. I mean, Red Bull was a consideration. Just its rise in terms of its significance in the whole landscape was massive. Johan van Graan, from a coaching perspective, what he did with that Bath team. I know that they've got the most insane squad in the league,
and the most entertaining maul,
as we've established. But
absolutely, don't clip that bit. No views.
No views. But obviously, it's hard to forget that he sort of left Munster under a bit of a cloud and then come to kind of Bath and absolutely dominated the league. George Ford, just because I love him, and he's just been so good all year. My continuous loving with George Ford is still going. But I settled on Borthwick because it's sort of easy to sports fans have always got short memories, and it'd be easy to forget sort of how low his stock was at the end of 2024. After obviously got to the semi-final in the World Cup, but in fairly bleak playing style. And then 2024, successive defeats, 3 defeats against New Zealand, defeat against Australia, fairly disappointing Six Nations. At the end of last year, the chat was really, is Borthwick going to make the next World Cup? It's not the chat anymore. After, was it 11 wins on the bounce this year after the Ireland defeat? Yeah. His stock, I think you've got to give credit where it's due. He's someone who's always been accused of being emotionally unintelligent, which I think, based on all the conversations I've heard around it, is probably correct. But he's also been talked about as being someone who's quite rigid in his view of how the game should be played. And actually, I think he's proved himself to be a lot more adaptable this year than people thought. Maybe not in terms of how he personally views the game, but the changes that he's made from selection, and particularly his coaching team, bringing in Lee Blackett, moving, questions around how many coaching changes there was and whether it was the right thing to do. Well, there's rumours that El Abd is on his way out because although he's Borthwick's mate, he's kind of been shifted to the sideline as they put Wigglesworth over to the defence, bringing in McGuigan. I think in fairness to him, he's proven himself way more flexible than people gave him credit for before, and England are the ones reaping the rewards of that. So for me, he's my riser of the year. Faller, difficult. We try not to be a negative pod. Wales would have been the obvious one, but to be honest, they've been falling for so long. It just feels at this point it's just you're sort of kicking them on the way down. Yeah. I thought about the France team. But then remember, they actually did win the Six Nations. It feels quite a long time ago now. They've been kind of falling since then. But I've actually settled on the Irish national team, whose stock, I think, as the year's gone on, has just kept dropping. Culminating really in the trouncing against South Africa. Really disappointing against New Zealand in the US, and then getting absolutely battered by South Africa, and not just beaten. Really quite sort of humiliated on home turf. And real questions now about whether that team has got it in it to get to the World Cup and have any kind of impact. Will Ireland go past the quarterfinal again? At the moment, I'm saying don't think so. So for me, the Irish national team is the one that's fallen the furthest. Interesting.
I'll be very intrigued if I was to clip that up and get some Irish fans' perspectives that you think they've fallen further than Wales.
I just think that's Wales. We know that Wales have fallen, right? Wales have fallen well away. But from the heights that Ireland were at, really in last year to now, I think that
more dramatic
feels like the most significant drop off in terms of levels.
I think that's fair. How about you, Mark?
Rise as the bad bloke in me wants to say Dragons because they've won the last 2 games.
Wow. That is a big dramatic rise.
On that one, though, to be fair to them, they haven't won for 15 months. It's one of those, it looks like a foregone conclusion every week. I don't live anywhere near Newport. I'm not a Dragons fan. It's genuinely nice to see them actually win twice on the bounce. I know it's a real far it's really putting it out there to have them as the risers, but it's just sort of like, it reminds me of, you know, when Fury looked like he was out on the mat and then sort of starting to sit up.
Suddenly remembered.
The risers for me, and this is a team that have gone from probably one of the best in Europe 10 years ago towards the bottom end of the Prem and then right back up there. I've gone Exeter Chiefs as risers because
I thought about them
getting it done at the StoneX again on Saturday. And I mean, it astounded me at the time. I remember back in, was it April or May, where Tony Rowe was in the dressing room giving the right act to the players, and Ali Heifer got sacked, did he? And I know there was a load of drama. I remember doing something about it, but I remember literally about 7 months ago, Exeter being in a bit of a hole. And out of nowhere, I'm going to say, because I didn't think they were going to be even top half this year, but they are risers, aren't they? I haven't checked the table since yesterday, but they must. If they're not top, they must be somewhere near top.
They're second. They're second.
Second at the moment. Yeah.
I don't think they're going to win the Prem because Bath are in the Prem. But to me, I've gone Exeter Chiefs as risers, and I didn't write it at the time, but you said it before, George Ford, and the fact, I mean, he didn't go on the Lions tour, which surprised me a bit, but the way he played for England in the summer and has played since, and he is the linchpin at Sale, isn't he? To be fair, George Ford, definitely worth a mention. And Fallers, I'd say you stole my thunder there, Rory, but Wales, I find it quite sad, to be honest, because I've been the Millennium Stadium a couple of times to watch them, and I've got a bit of a soft spot for Wales, but watched them against South Africa, and did South Africa even get out of second gear? Yeah. I mean, they did all right against New Zealand for the first half, but I'm looking at, if nothing changes by the World Cup, I'm not entirely convinced they're going to turn Tonga over, which it sounds mad to say, and that might sort of bite me back in future. I hope they get out the groups, but I'm looking at them at the moment, and I'm really just not that convinced, sadly. So they're the fallers, but I'm hoping this time next year I can say they're the risers, because I do not like Wales or anyone in Welsh rugby not doing well, frankly, because it is their linchpin sport, and I get nothing out of watching a poor Wales side or a poor Welsh region.
Wow. Well, it's such an interesting one. Do you know what? If they hadn't had that South Africa test and had left it at the New Zealand game, I think the conversation about Welsh rugby is very different right now. Because Cardiff are going very well in the URC.
Yeah, they are.
I see the Dragons have won a couple of games on the bounce. You know, it's potentially a different conversation, but that South Africa test plus just this ongoing just shit show that is the WRU is just killing the life in the game there. Yeah, I mean, you are right. They are the fallers. The reason I didn't want to pick them is just like same as you. I actually don't enjoy the kind of capitulation of the sport in Wales, because as much as they're like our biggest rivals, the game in the UK is so much better for having a competitive Welsh team. It's just
absolutely, 100%, yeah.
At the moment, it's just sad to watch.
Yeah.
Well, I really, really hope that when we're having this conversation next year, that they can't fall any further. So hopefully they won't be in contention in 2026 fallers.
I think my most optimistic thought for next year is that I don't believe that WRU are suddenly going to become brilliant, because I think all rugby unions to a certain level are terrible, and they're possibly the worst. But I do think the talent is still in the game there. I think I've seen enough talent in and dotted around coming through the youth ranks. There is some hope in amongst the people in Wales. The organisation is what it is.
Well, that's very optimistic of you, Rory. You've really changed your tune in recent months around the Welsh rugby movement. I wonder why that is. Well, for me, so my risers, I thought about South Africa's under-20 programme, because for 4 or 5 years, their under-20 team hadn't really achieved much. And then we all saw what they done in this year's Under-20 World Cup, where they absolutely steamrolled everyone. And they've got 4 or 5 just absolute, genuine world-class players, I think, on their hands coming through. So that's ominous for the rest of the world. I also thought about adding in just Prem rugby in general, because I feel like the competition is on the up, considering the mood music that probably when we were having these discussions last year about how was the Prem going to survive. I feel like it's definitely been an upward turn. But the riser I've gone for is a single player. A player who, at the start of the year, was just a mere under-20 England rugby player.
Just before we do that, listeners at home, just write on a postcard which player David's about to pick for his riser of the year. David, reveal your answer now.
It's Henry Pollock, but I think it's justified. Has there ever been a player go from genuinely near obscurity at the start of 2025. Let's face it, he was being called up for England under-20s, and he'd had about 100 minutes of Prem Rugby under his belt. At the end of the year, he is one of the most talked about rugby players on the planet. In the space of a year, if that isn't the biggest riser, I don't know what is, personally. So I stand by my very clearly obvious answer.
Yeah, that's fair.
Do you know what? I didn't even bother putting him on my potentials list because I just knew who was going to pick Pollock because I knew that he was getting picked by you. So I just thought I'll just leave it to you to have the conversation.
Yeah, it doesn't help that I've got a signed Pollock shirt behind me. But Fallers, I went Welsh Rugby as well. But one of the contenders I've thought that's probably worth talking about. I thought refereeing. I think the standard of refereeing over the last year has been probably not positive, and it's maybe not about specific referees, but maybe it's about how TMO interventions seem to be much more in play. There's been more frustrations than applause towards referees. I think there's been a number of great refereeing performances before anyone digs out at me, and I think the emergence of Holly Davidson as a world-class ref is a real positive for this year. And I'm very glad she's
really good.
I'm really glad she's getting Six Nations games next year. I think that's a huge positive. But I think that I nearly put just English referees because I feel like the standard of the referees in the Prem and kind of some of the referees in our game just don't seem to be at the level they were 2-3 years ago. I think we had the best referees. I'm not sure we do anymore. So I'll go with that to save us kicking Welsh Rugby any further. But that is where I was going to go.
I think it isn't. Yeah, okay, fair enough. I think that is a really interesting point, though. That there's definitely something really very true about that. That it feels like refereeing is being talked about more now than it even was 2-3 years ago. Plus, it seems to be something with the framework. Whoever is just making the decisions about what TMOs can interject with through the game has got it wrong. That has got to be the changes that we go back to the referee on the field being the ultimate arbiter of the sport. At the moment, it just feels like there's so many voices. There's so much stoppage. I mean, I was at Twickenham on Saturday, and the women's game in particular was painful. The game lasted like nearly 2 hours because of the amount of stoppages that were in it, and a lot of it was just refereeing. So it's just hard work. But people just lose interest.
Yeah, I think that's what it's doing.
I think it's a bit of a double-edged one. I get that. I think from a referee's perspective and from the people that organise the referee decisions, I think the other side of it, though, is that if it goes back to how it used to be where the ref just gave the decision, I feel like it'd get talked about so much more, missed things. I'm not saying this to sort of oppose you. I agree with what you're saying. And I'm going to throw a couple of commentary teams under the bus a bit here because I feel like commentary, it's constantly refs miss this, refs miss that. He's off his feet. He's, that's a high tackle. This is a high tackle. That's a high tackle. Like,
very brave.
If we're putting rugby on TV, not naming anyone, but if we're putting rugby on TV and we're trying to sell it, I don't personally, and I'm just one guy who watches a lot of rugby, so I feel like I can pick out on a TV what is and isn't a penalty. I don't need to know what every commentator thinks about every decision because I don't care. And if I don't watch rugby, I'm looking at that thinking, well, the commentary is so negative. Why would I? Why would I continue to watch this? It's not even like that in football. It's certainly not like that in cricket. That maybe too far the other way in cricket. But I find in rugby the chat about decisions with commentary, and it's not all commentators. Some are fantastic. I find it honestly insufferable.
Yeah, you do.
I think that's an interesting point. The way that we market the game has got to start extending to the people.
I think it's a knock-on effect to how it's refereed because referees don't want to get anything wrong. They'd rather stop the game and have a double look because they just don't want to be getting hammered in the meeting on a Monday morning.
Yeah.
I'm not speaking for all referees there. That is just how I interpret it from what I see.
Yeah, I think that's valid, and I think most games now you watch, you have a commentator say the ref's got that wrong, or I don't see why the ref's done that. And that's if the commentators are undermining the referee's decision, the fans are going to undermine the referee's decision, and all of a sudden the referee doesn't feel like they've got a leg to stand on, turn to the TMO, and double-edged sword. And I've just gone and added to that fire by saying that they're one of the Fallers of the year. But I stand by it still.
And us coaches would never question it. Just to add to that, we'd never question decisions. Thank you.
Famously, coaches have never tried to get involved in that.
Famously level-headed.
Famously. Well, those were our rises and fallers for 2025. Let us know if you think we've missed or included anyone wrongly. If anyone says,
or whether we should have all three gone for Welsh rugby
or Henry Pollock. But the next thing, looking ahead. So what I've done is I've written down 10 players that I think we should be watching in 2026. Let me know if you think I'm wide of the mark or I'm spot on. Don't feel pressured at all to completely agree with me. So these are all Prem players, so apologies to any fans or listeners who aren't that familiar with Prem, but this is Prem focused basically, but with a little bit of look at international rugby. So I've gone Alex Wills.
Sorry, for the benefit of South Africa, that's a very key point, all right? So for all South African fans that we can already hear from, we are aware you've got lots of good players.
I've already given them South Africa under 20 being a riser, all right? That's as much as you're going to get. So I've gone Alex Wills. The Sale Shark winger.
Yeah,
I suspect he'll have a big 2026. Billy Seller, with Will Stewart being injured and Thomas Tatoy leaving, there's a huge opportunity for him to have a huge 2026. Lucas Friday, I think he could start pushing for the Quins 9 shirt, given the right run of games. Oscar Usher, the Newcastle Red Bulls lock. I think he could potentially be the first to emerge from the Red Bulls Academy, albeit it would have been Falcons Academy when he came through, to potentially get into the national call-up conversation. Maybe not next year, but he's going to play himself into that conversation, I think. I've gone Daft Jenkins at Exeter and hoping he's going to be part of this Exeter and Wales resurgence in 2026. Joe Marchant, can he get back into the national team when he joins Sale in the summer of 2026? Nathan Michelot to replace Tom Willis when he leaves Saracens. Jack Bracken, because I'm intrigued to how the battle with Noah Kalori goes for that Saracens 14 shirt on the wing. James Lineker, the Bath fly half, who I'm just waiting for him to get his moment and whether he can grasp it. Unfortunately, he is behind Finn Russell, but I wonder if 2026 is when he becomes Bath's number 2. And number 10 on my list, I've gone Henry Pollock.
Jesus Christ.
I have my reasons, because I think 2026...
Already paying attention, listeners.
I think 2026 is the year he gets his first trophy.
Okay, all right, interesting. I mean, the Pollock one is very classic you, David, and I think for anyone who isn't watching Pollock already, that will come as a surprise. I liked a lot of those. I mean, I think the ones I think I would agree with all of those being worth watching for next year. My tip for next year, I think the return of the big tough lads is coming in.
Okay,
I think big hard forwards are coming back in. When you look at the strength of Bath in particular and what they're doing up front, where Sale have had a lot of success, Saracens obviously trying to recreate kind of their golden years. I think people have gone back. I think the pack is back in fashion. So I'm tipping the likes of Burrow at Sale.
Yeah, I forgot him. Yeah.
I think Richards and Green at Bath they're gonna be breaking new ground for them. I think they're close to getting into the first 15, depending on what the turnover is next year. But those two are definitely ones to watch. Outside of the Prem, Freddie Douglas up at Edinburgh is one I'm really looking forward to. I think he's close to a breakthrough for Edinburgh and Scotland. I had Lucas Friday. I think he's definitely going to break through next year. But I'm very forward dominant. Zach Carr at Quins, looking forward to seeing how he goes. Ilioni at Tigers, I think he's going to keep rising and rising. And I think Fizzalau, my Chiefs breakthrough, I don't think it's Daft Jenkins, I think it's Fizzalau. I think he's the one who's going to lead that resurgence.
Rory, I just need to... You haven't mentioned a prop yet, and I feel like you should mention a prop of some sort, at least.
I've got you covered if you don't worry.
Yeah, well, I think with Will Stewart's injury, I think it's really interesting to see who Ashraf Fajor looking like he maybe touch and go to reach the Six Nations as well. I think it's going to be interesting to see who takes that tighted spot. I think Billy Sellers in prime position. I do think for Sogbon's pretty lined up for that as well. If they don't go safe with someone like Trevor Davison, so if they back you, Seller off for Sogbon are going to be taking that spot. I'm hoping Manny Ogan's going to have his breakthrough, full breakthrough this year. I think he could go from being a a good Prem level player to something a bit special. He's the right dap for it, and his scrummages come on leaps and bounds as well.
Well, I'm not going to stop you saying a Saints player in that section. Mark, how about yourself?
So Billy Seller was ticked off, and I did think you were going to mention Seller, to be fair, especially with the toy going. Other ones, and you alluded to him a little bit there, Noah Kalori. I know, say he's a player to watch. He's maybe one that's being watched now, but he is a pretty raw finisher. Obviously, Noah Kalori and being good in the air is said in the same sentence constantly, but frankly, it's because he is very good in the air. So
yeah,
he's one to watch. There's Oscar Usher is an interesting one, and it's probably a good chance to say Falcons Academy. And we don't really deal with them at North England apart from when we've got players that may or may not be getting sort of released out to county and stuff. Falcons Academy consistently do a pretty good job at putting players through, and they're pretty strong in the under-18s league. We've had a couple of players come out to North England at under-17s who've gone back into the academy at number 18s and are really pushing on. So they, for a while, have done a pretty good job of covering their region and across Cumbria as well. So the fact that Oscar Usher is coming through, playing regularly and potentially could be pushing on towards international stuff in the future really doesn't surprise me at all, because I think a lot of people, if you don't know anything about the academy game, you look at Red Bulls now and think, oh, well, their academy is going to be similar. It's really not. That they're actually pretty decent. And the last one, it's a bit of a niche one. You mentioned about Tom Burrow before. Tristan Woodman's come through at 7, who he's a little bit before me on the school game, but was a real standout player at school. Obviously has gone through Sale and is getting a shot, but a player that's come through in the Prem Cup, and I'm a little biased because I coached him at Lim a couple of years ago. There's a lad called Seb Kelly, who his brother is Dan Kelly, the 12 for Munster. He's getting some Prem Cup time now. I'm telling you, when he gets in the first team, he is going to have some career, and he's not the biggest lad either, but he hits way above his weight. And I have genuinely, when he was 18, I have never seen an 18-year-old talk in a huddle the way that he talks. And every single person is listening. Like 300 cat players have stood listening to every word he says. And I was genuinely stood in the circle like, this kid's better than me. Like, he talks better than me, and I do this for a living every day. So
That's one of the
bit random because he's just come into the Prem squad now. But Seb Kelly, in the next couple of years, I'm telling you, is coming through.
I think players like that who have got that intangible like leadership, they're often the ones that make the step more naturally than others. So I wonder whether 2026 Seb Kelly could be a great shout. I definitely picked up on that because he definitely got game time in the Prem Rugby Cup and has some good stats, which obviously is my bread and butter. Yeah. So definitely one to watch. And I didn't want to draw too much attention to Kalori because basically the last 4 weeks of his podcast has been gushing over him.
It's Pollock's turn.
Pollock gets in the list, there, doesn't he?
Yeah. Well, it's been
the last 12 months haven't been gushing enough.
Hey,
who's this Pollock guy?
We were critical of Pollock a couple of weeks ago, so I had to give him something. But yeah, Kalori is a freak of nature, and probably should have been on my list for sure. But I think the battle with Jack Bracken, who I think is equally as exciting, I think that's why I just went Jack Bracken, because I think interesting to see how those two battle it out through 2026.
Well, I think interesting because you've also got Angus Hall in the mix there on that back three as well, who I think is really well thought of, and the lad who plays a bit of 13 and 14, whose name's just escaped me.
Ollie Hartley, or are you thinking of a lad whose name is escaping me as well? Tobias Elliott?
Tobias Elliott's certainly one other one to think about. I mean, the back three talent coming through at Saracens is outrageous. Yeah.
So maybe the Saracens backs are ones to watch. But yeah, again, listener, if there's anyone that we've missed, or if you're really getting bored of me saying Henry Pollock, let us know, because I'll still keep saying Henry Pollock. I look forward to talking about how Henry Pollock's one to watch in 2027, this time next year. Moving on from players to watch, again, sitting in the 2026 headspace, we're going to do some predictions. And I think the first prediction I want to do is a bit different. It's not your bog standard prediction. It's kind of our predictions about what's going to happen in the sport. And I'll kick this one off just to give you an idea of kind of where I was thinking with this one. I think 2026 is where we see the confirmation of Prem Rugby being franchised, along with the confirmation of the formation of an under-23 league that works underneath that league as like an A-league. That's what I think we'll see happen in 2026 in terms of governance-wise. Any predictions from you both?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, had a similar one. It was that the Prem would go franchise, or would at least try to. But my prediction was that there is going to be a monumental falling out at the RFU and the Prem and everywhere else as they try and push that through. So if you enjoy the drama of behind the scenes rugby, watch out for that one, because in the next few months there is going to be an enormous argument. That's my prediction.
Interesting.
My other prediction, I mean, they've basically announced it. Obviously, London Irish are on their way back next year, but very few details as to where. And my pessimistic prediction is that they become something like the Irish XLs and just end up in the middle of nowhere in the home counties, and it's a complete disaster. It'll be the Irish Exiles in the middle of Bedfordshire or something, and it won't be anything like what we were hoping for.
How very pessimistic of you, Rory.
Yeah, I'm afraid so. Unfortunately, I think with the sad passing of Eddie Jordan, I'm not sure if that's going to have the energy behind it still to come back. I do think Wasps should start breaking ground on their stadium in Kent next year. So I think you will start to see where Wasps are landing fairly soon.
Interesting. And how about you, Mark?
I mean, I haven't been following too closely the news about that under-23s league, but what I will say is I really hope that gets off the ground, because I remember when you used to have like Sail Jets and all the sort of the second teams, and it used to be sort of a mix of lads who were coming back from injury, lads who were in the academy, and then you'd have lads who were quite young playing from teams in your local area. So when I was at Coldie, there was a couple of lads who went and played for Sail Jets occasionally, and I think it's a really good way of showcasing younger lads who are playing Championship, National 1, National 2, giving them a chance to play in that league and seeing what they've got, because you don't need me to tell you, but there are players at Championship, National 1, National 2 who could go through and play in the Premiership. There's obviously more players who can play Premiership standard than there are Premiership shirts available, but under 23s league, I think, would offer more value than the Prem Cup. I thought the Prem Cup, when the champ teams were in it, were really good, especially for champ team gates. Like, you should see what, Coldie's like when Sale Sharks are there, or Newcastle Falcons are there, or, even Worcester this year. It's absolutely rammed out. The club's making a fortune. They've got a stand. They've got stalls on and everything. It's great to see. Coldie is quite a small club, in terms of its facilities, and I think it's on National Trust land and things like that. It's a real like National League sort of setup. But they've gone through to the Championship with pretty much the same squad, and a lot of them, you could put them into an under-23s league and give. I can think of a couple of names off my head of lads that I know who could put a Sail Jets, for example, shirt on and be absolutely fine. It'd be a real good way of giving them a chance to step up, and lads from National League. So I think it would offer as well something that's a little bit more meaningful, because I don't think I'm on my own when I say being candid. I don't care about the Prem Cup. The only thing about the Prem Cup that I care about is seeing who's decent coming through. It doesn't matter who wins it. The team that puts most of their first team out wins it. But I do think, and I don't know the ins and outs of why that stopped previously, but an under-23s league, even if it's at the expense of the Prem Cup, would be such a positive, especially for younger players in Championship, National 1, National 2, and even potentially below, who get an opportunity to play, even as a one-off.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, the under-23s, because I think they released like something around it, like a really vague intention, kind of middle of last year. And I remember I did a post about it on TikTok, and then I went to the Academy's final day, and then I had an unnamed source at Premiership Rugby come up to me and said, we were looking at your video about it. We thought that was quite interesting, some of the comments about it. So I think they're genuinely thinking about it and when to pull the trigger. And I just think next year's the time to... I agree. I'd get rid of the Prem Rugby Cup and replace it with an under-23s league and have
so
it.
Good.
Would you,
so good.
Just to pitch it, to start trying to bring the champ into the fold, would you say, we're not going to call it an under-23s league, we're going to keep it as the champ, but we're gonna reorganise this so champ teams are then linked to Prem teams officially and make that kind of an under-23s.
I think they'd have to stagger the fixtures so they don't really clash. Because what I wouldn't want, and I don't think any teams would want, is sides. Maybe use like Amtil for example here, who have quite a lot of. I think they have quite a lot of Saracens loanees. I might be wrong there, but having them playing twice a week, like for Saracens 23s, then Amtil, and it becomes at the expense of Amtil. Do you know what I mean? I think they'd have to be quite careful about how they did that. But one thing I think that, and again, I don't organise these fixtures for good reason, but you could put, let's say, Sale under 23s, rather than having it at the AJ Bell, have it at Haywood Road, or have it, which is where Sale FC play, or have it at where Sedge Tigers play, or have it at Coldy. And it would bring a big gate in for clubs locally that are providing these players from age group into the academy all the way up that are within their region. I think that would be a good way of doing it. Saracens players, I don't know what Old Albanians is like, but that's, do you know what I mean? That sort of setup where they've got maybe a small stand or a bank with seats on, like,
just help.
I think it would bring a gate in, and youngsters would be like, "Oh, look, Sailor playing, let's go."
Yeah, and it will help, especially if you try and do it so that you're spreading it around those clubs that do feed players into those systems. So they can help those grassroots clubs that need the money. Just giving them like a bumper day a season where they host an under-23 side, where you're going to get more people there than you normally do, where it's just a man and his dog. So that's what I hope to see. It may be optimistic, but hopefully these are all things we will see happen in 2026. Mark, did we cover your prediction? I don't know if we got sidetracked by the under-23s.
No, I got completely sidetracked by the under-23s. Yeah,
that's fine.
No, I've got predictions for other stuff. I think we're coming on to that.
Okay. So we're also going to cover some of the more stereotypical predictions. We'll cover our predictions for Prem, Champions Cup, Six Nations, the inaugural Nations Championship, our breakout player of the year, and our player of the year. So starting off with the Prem. We've spoken about it a fair bit. Who are our predictions to win the Prem in 2026?
I can't bear to predict Bath to win back-to-back Prems. And actually, although they are obviously phenomenal, there's no doubt about that Bath squad and how good it is. I think recent weeks in the Champs Cup have shown that there's an element of fallibility there if you play the right tactic. And the team that I think can beat them in a one-off game, and I think will get there, is Saints. So I'm actually, David, for this one, I'm actually going to predict that Saints pull off an upset and come out on top in the Prem this season.
I'm so glad you said that. Because I was about to say the same thing, but I was expecting eye rolls and just being completely dismissed. But yeah, I agree. I think Saints, injuries pending, if we get actually our best team out on the pitch, our best 23, I think if you go 1 to 23 strongest teams against each other, I think Bath maybe edge it on pack terms, but the Saints backline edges the Bath backs, I think. So I think on their day, I think Saints can beat Bath. I
expect Bath to top the table, by the way. I'm just thinking, I think Saints will make the final, and in a one-off game, I think they could do it.
Yeah, I think that's where I'm at as well. I think Bath will finish top of the table as well, but I think Saints win it. Now, Mark, are you going to agree with us or go a different direction?
I think you know what I'm going to say here.
I'm going to say Bath.
I think Bath. I think by some considerable distance, Bath. I take the point about Northampton Saints, and this isn't so much a prediction, but it's something that I've seen this team do before, and they're sixth. But I think if anyone can go and beat Saracens, get to a final out of nowhere and beat Saracens, beat Bath, is Saracens.
So I thought the same, and then they went and played Bath and got stuffed by them.
I know, but it's not a Prem final.
True.
It's the thing. So they're one of those teams, aren't they? They
can on the day. Yeah.
Yeah, they can get hammered by Bath. They can get beaten at home by Exeter.
Yeah.
But when it matters, they can do it. I do think Bath will win the Prem. I think with them finishing top, I don't think whoever is fourth, I don't think will get near them. No. But then it's just a case of who's there in the final. Saints would give them a run. But if I was going to really back a team against Bath, it would be Saracens. But it's going to be Bath, I think.
That is interesting, because I think in the first 2-3 weeks of the season, I said that I was watching the Saracens' defence, and I think I said that they look like a team that are being drilled to counter the Bath, the way that they were defending. So I do wonder if that's part of their thinking, is to be able to compete with them.
Something feels off at Saracens for me
right now at this moment in time. Yeah,
watching them, even in the games they win, something's just not quite clicking in the way that you'd expect it to for a team being led by Owen Farrell. I don't know what it is. But when I'm watching them, I'm thinking that doesn't feel like a Sarries team that's going to beat all comers. And they're obviously not, but it doesn't feel like a championship team at the moment when I watch them. Even the games they win, I can't really put my finger on it. But there's something when I watch them that just doesn't quite feel right there.
I think certainly in recent weeks and maybe months, I think they've been in that space. I think that maybe they've just lost that ability to close out games and be ruthless, which is what they were known for.
Yeah, it's just that lack of ruthless. And maybe it's just the fact that Jamie George has been in and out. Itoje's obviously out at the moment. Yeah. Maybe it's just if you start bringing back those kinds of players, it's a different conversation.
There's a team that does this every year, isn't there? I think like November last year, Sale Sharks was 7th.
Yeah.
And then they got to the Prem final, didn't they? They won a ton of games. So the fact that they're 6th at Christmas, and I think they're only about 6 points off second or something like that. You realistically 2 or 3 wins from find yourself right back in the top. They haven't got as much climbing as Sale Sharks had to do last year, who got to the final and looked good for it. So I kind of know you're not ruling them out, but I just wouldn't rule Saracens out. They're just one of those sides that if they decide they want to have a crack, they will. They just need to decide to do it, I guess.
That's fair.
Yeah. I do agree. I think the last 2 years they've been a bit. They're either unbeatable or unwinnable. I think when they have all their best players on the pitch, their back row is potentially the best out there. When it's Gonzalez and Willis, it's just the rest of them, and it's whether they can get that back line firing with Farrell and the centres. I agree. I think Saracens are ones to watch, but I still tipped Saints to win anyway. So as good as Saracens may be, they ain't getting past Northampton in my opinion. Champions Cup.
What French team's going to win it? Isn't it? I've gone for Toulouse this year. I know that they had a bad result away at Glasgow, which sometimes some teams need a bit of a reality check, and that Toulouse has got too much quality in it to fall away completely after that result. For me, it's still between them and Bordeaux. I don't think Leinster are the team to do it this year, and I think the Saints are perfectly capable of getting up there again, but I don't think they will. I just think that Toulouse team is just phenomenal, particularly when they get their full 15 out there. It's just so phenomenal. So for me, I think they'll do it this year.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Mark?
Yeah, Toulouse for me as well. I wouldn't be surprised if all of us went for Toulouse here, but I find it a little bit of a shame. The format is the way it is, and this is something that's I'm sure been spoken about a million times now. But if this was a Champions Cup where you had to graft to get into the last 8, I think it might be a little bit of a different conversation. But the top 16 teams out of is it 24?
Yeah.
In this, they just coast, don't they? You win your home games, you coast through, and you don't really until the quarterfinals, semi-finals have to get out of second gear. If you are a Toulouse, a Leinster, a Bath, a team like that, so I think it makes it easier for the top level, like the cream of the crop teams. I think it looks like it's just easier for them to get to the semi-final. I think if they had to go absolutely full noise every game in the Champions Cup and it was a final 8, it might be a little bit different. But I think that the top level will potentially find it a little bit easier this year. And I think Toulouse are a step ahead of Leinster, La Rochelle, Northampton Saints, Bath even. I think Toulouse are going to win it. Bordeaux, actually. They've just overlooked Bordeaux, on there. Bordeaux got a chance, but
yeah. Well,
Toulouse for me.
I haven't gone Northampton Saints to your surprise. I haven't tipped them. I've gone for Bordeaux personally, not Scarlets. Yeah. Although I will give Scarlets their due.
Yeah, that was sly. I quite like Scarlets.
They've been doing quite well. Fletcher Anderson, their number 8, is some player, by the way. But yeah, I've gone Bordeaux. I just have a feeling that they want to show that that Toulouse aren't the only French side that can go back to back, and I think they will be targeting the Champions Cup to show that they are at the start of their dynasty, because they went so long without winning a trophy, and it was so big for them winning it last year. I think they'll want to back that up. I think we'll see, because obviously Saints are going there in the next round. I think we will see exactly the difference between those two teams. I think it'll be close, but I think Bordeaux will show that they are still probably a step above everyone else. Toulouse obviously are the other kind of candidate. I think that Glasgow games throw a little bit of a curveball in my brain, picking them, because they had a pretty strong team and they were well beaten. So that's why I've gone Bordeaux.
Yeah, that Bordeaux team's phenomenal.
It is phenomenal. And yes, I completely agree with what you're saying, Mark, around the format. We've spoken about it a fair bit those last few weeks on the podcast about how it needs to change. It needs to go back to being based on the best of the best and elite competition, because right now you only need one win in the group stage and you can get through to the knockouts. Like, it's a bit pointless. And we're seeing it's making the competition not very exciting. A lot of people are turning off to it.
Yeah, it is a bit too saturated. I know you've had this conversation already, but I don't think if you finish 8th in the Premiership, you should be in it.
Yeah.
8th in the Premiership. Yeah. I don't think if you finish 8th, you shouldn't be in it. It's Champions Cup.
I agree.
Yeah, completely agree. They should, cut down the number of teams, make it so every game's important, and really redo that structure. But none of us included that in our governance predictions. That shows how likely that is to change, unfortunately. Okay, moving on. Six Nations. What are your... I'm not going to ask just for who's going to win it. I want to know your running order from 1st to 6th.
Oh, okay. I think this is the year England will win it. I think they're the, and it's, I'm sure we'll get some disagreement from our friends in other parts of the competition, but something feels off in France at a national level. And I have a feeling that loss against South Africa is going to have quite a long-term psychological effect on the national team. So I think they're possibly in for a wobbly tournament. Ireland, as I say, I think their stock's on the wane. I don't think Scotland. I think the Golden Generation's peaked on its perennial 4th place finish. Italy aren't ready to step up to that level, and Wales are where they are. So I think for me it'll be England top. I think probably France will end up coming second. Do we know, are they home or away with Ireland?
Oh, I don't know.
That's probably the crunch match between those two. I think France second, probably Ireland third. France. So France are at home that's right, on the Thursday, isn't it? In February. Yeah, Ireland third, Scotland 4th, Italy 5th, Wales bringing up the rear again. I think.
To that spoon draw that they've got.
Yeah.
How about you, Mark?
I have literally got the exact same running order. The only thing I wanted to clarify is England, France in London or Paris?
It is away. So we've got the blue teams away this year. So that's the last game. That's the last game of the tournament. I think arguably could be the Grand Slam decider.
Yeah. But, so if you said London, I'd have been like England, but I'm still going to say England. I'm just going to be arrogant and say England anyway. Yeah. England first, France, Ireland, Scotland, Italy, Wales. With some wiggle room, as there often is, I think the top 2 could be either 1st or 2nd. I think Ireland, Scotland could be either 3rd or 4th. Italy, Wales could be either 5th or 6th. But I'm going to go for the exact same run order as you there. I think it's England year, partially because England look good, but partially because every other team, as you mentioned before, has something about them that says we're not going to win it.
Yeah.
But when one of them wins it, won't we look foolish?
Yeah, well, let's triple down on that. I've done the exact same prediction, spot for spot. I've gone, England, France, Ireland, Scotland, Italy, Wales.
We can't all be wrong.
Fortunately, Rory, as we've often found out on this podcast, we can all be wrong quite frequently. But just completely agree. It does feel like England, out of those 6 nations, are in the best place, are in the right direction, on the right trajectory. So I feel like it's the logical prediction, I think, as well as kind of what my heart is saying, being an England fan as well. But I also believe next year is the first... Is it next year the first year of the inaugural Nations Championship?
It is indeed.
Where we see all the nations pitted against each other in a tournament format over the summer and autumn international windows now. Which, a bit interesting. It brings a bit of spice to the international window. Obviously, I'm not going to ask us to predict where each nation falls in that. So who do we think wins and who do we think's the runner-up?
I'm really excited. I think that the first game, England in Johannesburg against South Africa, I'm really excited for that match and for this whole tournament. My gut feel is South Africa will still win this. I just think that they are just streets ahead. I mean, at this point, it's trite to say it, isn't it? But they are a team that's streets ahead. But that first game in Joburg is really exciting. And as an England fan, the fact that as sitting here right now, going into that game with a puncher's chance of actually coming away with a result.
Yeah,
I really look forward to that. That may all change depending on how the Six Nations goes. If I'm completely wrong on that, but I feel South Africa to win it, probably England to runner-up.
Yeah, I'm on board with that. Mark?
Tough because we've not seen the Nations Cup before. I think part of it will depend on how seriously the teams take it. I suspect they all will take it quite seriously, but you just don't know. I struggle to see past South Africa. I just don't know who can and will deal with them up front. Obviously, you can't rule out New Zealand. You won't rule out France entirely. You won't rule out England. I think there will be, and it's great that Fiji, Japan, Italy, Wales are all involved, but I think there'll be quite a lot of routine heavy wins there until they play each other. But for me, at South Africa, every World Cup, I feel the same. I think South Africa are going to win it until they don't. And it will be the same for the Nations Cup. I think if South Africa really want to win it, then they will win it because they are just, it is a game about out-muscling people, and they are the best at it.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah, I've got the same prediction. I think South Africa will win it. I think England will be runners-up. But I'll go one step further. I think this will be the root of England's core motivation to go to the World Cup and overturn South Africa in the final and win the 2027 World Cup. I think this is going to be the moment they'll look back on. So that's my prediction based on this prediction for 2027.
Interested.
Clip that and take me back in 2 years' time and see how wrong I am.
Dip that out.
Edit that out. Yeah, that'll get cut. Let's player specific now. I've asked for a breakout player of the year. This is always quite tricky to predict because we don't know who is in the running really for that, because you need to kind of see them break out. And at international level, it's really hard to kind of pick a player out who may not be in people's forefront of their minds to be at that level. A player that I think has a chance is Calvin Gorges for France, the centre.
Yeah, Gorges came to mind for me. Just looks phenomenal, doesn't he?
He looks phenomenal. I think he's playing for a national team who can go on and win lots of games and win lots of rugby games. Depends how often he gets picked. So it's kind of hard to say whether he's definitely going to be in the running for it. But that's going off the profile of the players that were nominated this year, and assuming Henry Pollock can't be nominated again, it's hard to think of players who would fit into that sort of category. And at this point in time, internationally, I think Gorges is one of the few who would fit into like the profile of player that they look out for this award. Depending if Kalori gets more England game time, he could play his way into it, I think. But we've all spoken about the depth on the England wings at the moment. It's hard to say he's going to get much game time there. Sasha Feinberg and Gomezulu is going to be in contention for World Player of the Year, not Breakout Player.
Yeah, he's my pick for World Player of the Year.
Yeah, spoiler alert, me too. And I'm not sure who else there may be. Maybe that's just my lack of awareness of what's going on in Australia and New Zealand and South Africa at that kind of level. But for me, Gorges feels like the one that could have a real breakout yet next year internationally.
Maybe. I mean, again, we could play into your bias. The only other name because of the strides they've made this season so far, Tadaro. If he gets a shot, which is he's likely to get a shot with Italy
potentially. He didn't get much of a shot in the autumn.
No, but maybe that came too soon. But we'll see. I mean, I'm just thinking of young players who have been making an impact at club level. But yeah, for me, it's hard to look past someone like Gorges. Kalori, yeah, for sure, he's going to be in and around the debate for selection. I don't see much past them at the moment. The fact that Gorges is playing first team for Toulouse, that's enough of a stamp of approval.
I think so. It's not a bad place to be. Are there any others you could think of, Mark?
No, I mean the breakouts across the world. I'm not going to pretend I'm hugely over it and just be like, I know loads as well. But I think for a couple of things to happen to be nominated for breakout, you need to come out of and I use Henry Pollock's path as an example for this. You need to come out of relative obscurity into first team international. And then perform at international quite quickly to become a breakout. So Kalori is probably the obvious one because him to potentially be a breakout player of the year, he's going to have to go from Saracens into an England shirt. And it is a stacked position, but I'm thinking because of the Nations Cup, will Kalori get a run against the lesser ranked international teams? Because he's gone from Saracens into an England training squad, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Could he feasibly be in an England shirt by the summer? I think he could. in order to do that, he's going to have to play well and score a lot of tries for club. Now, because he's playing at Saracens, who, as we mentioned before, are 6th in the league, but I think will find their way into the top 4 and then potentially to the final, because they often do it. He's going to have to play quite a big part in that. So my question I'm answering myself, and the answer is yes, is could I see Noah Kalori being a big part of a Saracens resurgence into the summer, being rewarded with England caps where he then performs well, and then potentially picking up an England wing shirt in the summer and being nominated for Breakout Player of the Year? I think it's very feasible that he could. So I'm going to go Kalori, but that is my England-centric, don't really know much about anyone else answer.
I don't think it's a bad shout. Considering Kalori didn't play in the first 3 rounds of the Prem, he's the Prem top try scorer already this season. So
that's nuts, isn't it? That is nuts.
Which is again heavy lifting done by that one game where he scored 5 tries, but still he's still above.
He's still scored 5 tries, isn't he?
He still scored more tries.
It wasn't against Gloucester or.
Who was it against?
Sale.
Oh, was it?
Yeah. He bullied.
Fair enough.
He bullied O'Flaherty. Yeah. So considering he's got more tries than Arundel, who's having an absolute barnstormer, Tommy Freeman, Feyu Aboso, these are the names
in a mid-table team currently as well.
Yeah. So I think I don't think you're far off that. What you just portrayed there as steps as what could happen in 26. I don't think you're far off what could happen. I think we'll see him in the England squad in the Six Nations. I think we'll see that.
Yeah.
As long as he keeps scoring tries, he makes himself droppable almost for the squad selection. It's just whether Borthwick sees him as part of the game plan, and seeing the way England play, how important the kick chase is and under the high ball. He may well even become important against the big nations sooner than we think as well. So I don't think you're far off the mark with Kalori being in the equation as well. And we've kind of spoiler alerted already, but Player of the Year, I think the emergence of Sasha Feinberg and Ngobazulu in that South Africa shirt. I think the debate around who is the best player in the world between him and Dupont is a very genuine debate now. In the past, I was always, no, it's Dupont. I think what we've seen of Sasha Feinberg and Ngobazulu is he's got a lot more to give than I've seen, and I think he is going to have us. If we're predicting South Africa to win the nation's champ and South Africa continuing to be dominant, it's really hard to see beyond him, I think.
Yeah, I mean, he is a sensation. He's an he's one of those players. I'm trying to think the most all-round 10 I've seen probably since Dan Carter that comes to mind. As an all-round player, run, kick, pass, defence.
It's got it all, yeah. And he's got wheels as well.
Yeah, and he's got wheels. I mean, he's genuinely frighteningly good.
All he needs to do is be good at tight head propping, and then he's the full package.
Yeah.
And he may well be.
Yeah, he probably could be. He's big enough.
Yeah. Mark, you in agreement, or is there someone we've forgotten?
No, funny you should say prop. I think you're both pretty bang on. It's hard to look past him, but I mean, I could be miles off, and I struggle to pick a 10 for it. I struggle to look past the front row, but that's very much a me problem rather than a World Player of the Year problem. But it's very, very rare that you come across a front rower who is renowned to be the best and one of the best on both sides. So a real outside shout, maybe not. Maybe rose-tinted glasses for me, and I think you know where I'm going with this. Thomas the Toy.
Yeah.
I'd love to see it. I would love to see it.
He is frighteningly good at tight head, frighteningly good at loose head, propping the best team in the world, and the front row's just won it, haven't they? Mark's won it last year.
Mark.
So if they go for another South African front rower, I don't know. I think I think you're both right in saying Ngobazulu, but the prop in me is saying Thomas the Toy, because it's who I want it to be.
If Bath win one or both of the Prem and the Champions Cup, and South Africa win the Nations Cup, and Thomas the Toy plays a big percentage of those games, he's going to be in the conversation for it.
Yeah. I would love for a prop to win World Player of the Year. I would love it.
Yeah. Well, Oxenche got robbed of it, so someone's got to give it to a prop.
Props have been getting robbed of it for every year. Every year.
Correct.
A prop should win it every year, in my opinion. It's where the real rugby's played. Okay, so those are our predictions for 2026. Again, listener, if you think we are wide of the mark, just let us know. We're more than happy to be told how wrong we are. And we'll round off the pod with our own rugby New Year's resolutions for 2026, personally or just generally. Rory, let's start off with you. What is your rugby New Year's resolution?
I think my resolution for rugby in England in particular is for the RFU to either eliminate or completely castrate the RFU Council and take all away. We get all of their involvement from pro rugby out.
You've been out to get them since episode 1, series 1.
Yeah, they are in my crosshairs. I want the council gone. From a personal perspective, I'd like to score a try from more than 1 yard out. It's not happened yet, so it's not going to happen this year.
Fair play if you've managed to do that. I struggle to think of a time I was even in the opposition 22 when a team I was on scored. You're even a yard out. Yeah. Fair play to you, miles ahead of it, where I ever got.
The problem is you haven't seen him play, Mark. What he just hangs around the opposition's 1 yard line waiting for the game to get there, and then he's in the right position.
Yeah. The sign of a good player is where the game comes to them.
Mark, how about yourself? Any rugby New Year's resolutions?
I mean, I've put down for myself just to offer more value. It sounds like a bit of a I don't know if arrogance is the right word, but I don't need to make any resolutions with myself about staying involved in rugby and coaching because I absolutely love it. I'm fortunate to do it for a living, and I like to think I'm pretty good at it, to be honest. But my TikTok page and the stuff that I put on that, I like to offer value for people to watch free of charge. Especially around things like the maul, explaining things that have happened, what coaching selection processes look like, how coaches plan sessions, what we look for in players, things that can help develop players. And regardless of whether videos go up and it gets 500 views or 100,000 views, it's fairly immaterial to me. So my resolution is just to keep plodding on doing that on TikTok because it is genuinely nice when you get, and it is largely positive interaction, which does come on the back, I think, of providing value and not really calling anyone out on it. So just to continue to do that and try to promote what is good about the sport as well as being balanced and critical about things that aren't particularly good. My resolution is just to keep providing in the game, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you for bringing some value to rugby's most worthless podcast.
All I was going to say there, more positively, was I could completely see that you are adding value to the TikTok space, and it's nice to know that there is a TikTok account that is getting positive interaction and not getting pelters left, right, and centre like we seem to get. But maybe yeah. But I would say if you aren't following Mark on TikTok, it's MWRUGBYCOACHing. Is that the username?
It is, yeah. It's MWRUGBYCOACHing, and just if you see me make team selections for international and premiership, I'll just remind you all, I don't actually pick the teams, so you don't need to tell me that the selection's wrong. I'm not Borthwick, nor am I any other prem coach, so you do not need to tell me that you pick someone else. It's okay. It's just a bit of fun. But thanks for following anyway.
Yeah. We know what it's like. We know what it's like. But no, I completely agree with that sentiment as well. I think that's the reason why I started the TikTok channel and podcast is just to try and bring hopefully informed discussion around a sport I just genuinely love.
It is generally quite a friendly app, isn't it? For anyone that's not on it, it is generally quite a friendly app. I think you get what you give on TikTok, don't you? So if you're dishing people up, you'll get it back. But if you generally do things on there that are quite positive, you get pretty good interaction. That like the perfect example of that is the guy that walks around the country making cups of tea for people. Have you seen him? Yeah. Like the love that page gets just for him doing that. Like it's a perfect example of what's good about TikTok. So like you can go on there and have a pretty good experience.
You can, and
you really can. It's not.
And maybe that's part and parcel with the fact that Rory's not on that account, not bringing his negativity. My resolution, it's not really that similar, but it's basically to try and maintain my intake of rugby and my output of rugby content and this stuff at the same time as being a father for the first time with my child coming along in February. That's going to be a tricky balance to strike, but my New Year's resolution is to try and get that balance right. So one, I'm still a good dad, but two, I'm still a good podcast host. That's the plan.
Yeah, that's key. That's key. We just need rugby to get equal billing to your child.
It wouldn't be a Rucks, Mauls, Overballs podcast if I didn't have someone at my front door. So bear with me 1 second.
Oh, this is outrageous.
No, fair enough.
Every week he gets a delivery of some ludicrous deliveries, dog food deliveries. I mean, this will be his caviar or his port or something. It's a succession of the most middle class.
Be highlights, really.
Subscriptions.
Rugby, won't it? He just said that about being a father. It'd be when the baby's first words are maul defence.
We want to build the child at the We want to build the podcast child.
Okay,
the perfect rugby player.
Well, so little baby Sawani Tongawiya.
Yes.
Yeah, the bedtime stories are going to be reading the packs out of Northampton Saints matchday programs. He's just
pictures of Henry Pollock.
Let's face it, he's not going to be a back rower, is he? He's going to be a prop, and I'm all for that. That's my New Year's resolution. Maybe I should also add to stop organising deliveries during podcasts as well, because it has been about 10 in a row now that's happened. Pretty preposterous for me. But I think that's the podcast, chaps. Overall, that's 2025 on Rucks, Mauls, Overballs wrapped up. I suppose it's just a case of, are there any final thoughts from both of you before we bring the podcast to a close?
Everyone to follow MW Rugby Coaching for 2026 and learn a little bit more about the maul.
That's a good one. That's the one.
That's the one.
Anything else from you, Mark?
Just a thank you to both of you for having me on again.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
I really do appreciate it. Having 2 hours to talk solidly about rugby, which I massively appreciate. And I'll tell you now, she's not in here, but my wife hugely appreciates the fact that you've let me talk about rugby for 2 hours, because I'll only talk to her about it for 3 now instead of 5. So.
Fantastic. We've taken up some of your rugby conversation allotted hours.
Yeah, to Mark's missus, you're welcome.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me on. I really do appreciate it. And,
anytime.
It won't be the last time.
We'll definitely have you on again more in 2026 for sure. A final thought from me, which I very rarely do, is just a thank you to anyone who has stuck with us through the year, listened to us at any point, or has watched any of our content on TikTok or Instagram or YouTube or wherever else you absorb your podcast stuff. Just a thank you to anyone who's stuck with us, listens to us, interacts with us. It's very much appreciated. And I think for now, that means for 2025, Rucks, Mauls and Overballs is out. And we'll be back again in 2026.
Ta-ra.
Ta-ra, everyone.